Hello everyone, welcome back. Today is week 10 of my album rankings, and this week we have Pop Trash. Pop Trash is the 10th studio album by Duran Duran. It is the first and only album to not feature any of John's work at all. So, John's not on the album, his bass isn't on the album. It's completely without John. And this album was also produced by TV Mania, which was Nick and Warren's little side project they had going on. Now also, during this album, Simon was going through a very difficult time and he was really struggling, which led him to have writer's block. So he didn't really write any or many of the songs on Pop Trash. He definitely wrote one, and then I think he just, kind of wrote a little bit on a few here and there. But apart from one of the songs, he didn't write any full songs. When this came out in 2000, it was only released on CD. As I'm sure many of you will know, it was only recently released on vinyl in December 2023. There was two different editions of it. There was the normal black vinyl and then also a limited edition picture disc, which was limited to 1,500 copies. And I don't want to brag, but I am one of those 1,500 people to own one of those copies. As always, just because a song is lower down in the ranking doesn't necessarily mean that I don't like it. It just means it's the one that I'm least likely to listen to. And let's get on with the ranking. At number 13, we have Prototypes. Now, I found out last night that Prototypes wasn't actually on the original release of this album, not in every country at least. Some albums it was on, and then some of them it wasn't, I believe. As I have the new edition of the album, I have listened to that song and I just decided to leave it on the list. I'm gonna be honest. I kind of don't understand the point of it being on the album. I think it's really just, it's very noisy, and it's especially the fact that it is kind of like the last song on the album, on the new edition of the album at least, and some of the originals. If you're not counting like the Spanish and French editions of Someone Else Not Me, it is kind of like the album closer, and I don't know, I really do not think it is the right song to have as an album closer. Well, if you're like me, you'll just end the album once Last Day on Earth has finished, and that's what I do, because Prototypes is so noisy and it's just very loud and it's quite hard to listen to. I do find it really noisy. It is a collection of experimental tracks. I believe it's probably just, like things that were supposed to be songs or were in songs and they didn't end up being in there, or, things that got recorded during the recording process. There wasn't really much about it, unsurprisingly, because obviously it's more like sound and noises, and there's not really that, it's just quite, I do think it's a bit unnecessary on the album. And I'm not normally one that, I don't normally like to sit and, be kind of rude and disrespectful about the songs, but in my opinion, this isn't really a song. It is just a compilation of random noises and words and phrases and things like that. I never really listen to Prototypes. I always skip it. I always end the album on Last Day on Earth. And so for that reason, Prototypes is at number 13. At number 12, we have Ladies Annex. Now, this was a difficult song for me to rank because it's a song that I do like it, but at the same time, I'm also not that keen on it. It's quite hard for me to explain. I definitely think the chorus is the best part of the song. Well, I do actually like the verses, but I do just prefer the way the chorus goes, if that really makes any sense. I'm not sure it does. Now, the lyrics were written by Nick, as were most of the lyrics on this album. And on an Ask Catty question from 2000, it was explained that Nick wrote it about someone he knew, and it represents someone spiraling into despair and they're unable to find a sense of purpose in their life. He also said himself that the song isn't actually about a lady. He said it was about someone in his life that he watched like turn into, you know, needing like pharmaceutical drugs to, you know, be able to function. They were like depending on them. You know, it makes you think like, well, if it isn't about a lady, then it's probably about a man. And who was that man? We will never know, and we don't really have to know because it's not really our business. But, you know, I think it's interesting when you can, you know, write about an experience and, you know, an idea comes from something that you are seeing. Don't really know why I put Ladies Annex at number 12. It's a song I really don't know how much I like it, really. But at number 12, we have Ladies Annex. At number 11, we have Fragment. Fragment is simply just an interlude between Pop Trash Movie and Mars Meets Venus, which, when I listened to the album in full last night, I do think that the little interlude between those two songs is really nice. It's a nice little touch, and it just, you know, it separates them because I do think they are they are two very different styles of song, and I think had you just gone straight from Pop Trash Movie into Mars Meets Venus, it would be a little kind of all over the place. But I do think having Fragment in between them both it helps separate them a little bit. And there's not much more to say about Fragment except that it is an interlude. So at number 11 we have Fragment. At number 10 we have Starting to Remember. Now, Nick once again wrote the lyrics to this song, and he describes it as being a song about trying to find something that once made you happy in life. I believe that's what I read. Now, the composition of this song has been described as featuring an unusual time signature and a Beatlesque feel. At least that's what I found when I was researching about the song. As I said, Nick wrote the lyrics. They are rather introspective lyrics, and he just described the song as being about trying to find something in your life that, you know, once made you happy. I do think it is a nice song, but at the same time, while it is a rather short song, I feel like it is quite slow and quite long for the length of what the song is, which I don't know if that makes sense, but I do just think it is quite long, even though the song is short, and I can't really explain why. I do just think that somehow in my mind. I do think that Simon's vocals on the song are really beautiful. I do think the words are really nice, and, you know, it is really a song about, you know, just trying to remember a time where you were happy and, you know, trying to figure out how you can bring that back into your life. It is a very nice, sort of nostalgic, melancholy song. I don't really listen to it that much, simply because it is more one of the emotional, sadder songs, and, you know, I always think you do have to be in a certain mood to listen to songs like that. So for that reason, it is at number 10. Now, at number 9, we have Kiss Goodbye. So Kiss Goodbye is a prelude to the album's finale, which is Last Day on Earth, if you don't listen to Prototypes afterwards. Kiss Goodbye is actually one of my favourite instrumentals of Duran Duran's. I'm not really sure if you could count it as an instrumental because it isn't really that long, and it is, you know, more of an interlude. But I do like it. I think it's short but sweet. I remember seeing a question on Ask Catty about if there's an extended version of this. Nick said he would try to find one, if there were, when they were going to remaster Pop Trash, but there mustn't have been. I think it would have been nice if it was a little longer, and obviously the point is that it's not meant to be too long because it is a prelude to the final song on the album. But I do think an extended version of Kiss Goodbye would also be really nice. There's not really much to say about that track either, considering it is just a little prelude before the final song. So at number 9 we have Kiss Goodbye. Now at number 8 we have Hallucinating Elvis, Hawaii to Las Vegas. Now I'm gonna be honest, for some reason I do find the beginning a little bit creepy. I don't know why. There's just something about it that's a little bit eerie, I think. Once the singing begins and everything, it's fine, but I think it's just that like little intro part. Hallucinating Elvis was written by Nick and Warren, and it was inspired by Simon's gold suit that he wore in Perfect Day, in the Perfect Day video. So one day Simon was running late to the studio, and Nick and Warren decided they were going to go ahead and just write this song because it had been sort of an idea for a few years. And you know, I suppose that day when it was just the two of them and Simon was running late, they thought, let's finally make this happen. Now, according to Nick, Simon was shocked yet thrilled when he came into the studio and, you know, heard the results. But Simon himself actually says in the Duran Duran edition of Record Collector that I think was out last year, he said that he felt uncomfortable with the song. In fact, with a lot of songs that were happening on Pop Trash, or at least with quite a few tracks on Pop Trash, he felt uncomfortable with the song. He wasn't really into it. And he claimed that Warren imposed like a lot of songs upon him. He would, you know, make him want to record songs he didn't want to do. Do I believe that? Yeah, I do. I really don't like that man at all. I will be in the very unpopular category of Duran Duran fans. Besides being a guitarist and, you know, actually quite a decent one, I don't understand why so many people like him as a person. And so apparently when Simon came into the studio that day when Nick and Warren had wrote Hallucinating Elvis, Warren said that they had written the song. He came over to Simon, said they had written the song and that Simon just had to now write the lyrics for it, which he wasn't happy about. As he said in the Record Collector magazine, he really wasn't keen on the idea at all, it seems, and it's not really right, is it? Like, you know, he was going through enough as it is. So the song is about a man slowly going insane on a flight, and he starts to believe that he is Elvis. I also think that Hallucinating Elvis does sound a lot better live. I've seen a few live performances of it, and I do think that it is much better when it was performed live than on the album. I also think that it is longer than it probably needs to be. I feel like it is quite dragged out. I mean, the thing is, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this song because on one hand, I think it's really catchy and I actually find myself singing along to it a lot. But on the other hand, I just don't like it because I don't like that Simon was, you know, forced into writing it and recording it. And, you know, I'm like in two minds about it because it's a song that I actually do like, but at the same time, I kind of don't like the story behind it. Do you know what I mean? And in some ways, I don't know if it could be considered a little bit disrespectful, but I'm not like a big Elvis fan, so I can't really say like, oh, you know, it's disrespectful or it isn't. As I said, I do think it is on longer than it, you know, it is a long song. I think it's on for about 5 minutes, which isn't necessarily long, but I think for the kind of song it is, it could have, you know, been finished a minute or so earlier. And I do feel like it's just kind of dragged out a little bit. But that's my own opinion. At number 8, we have Hallucinating Elvis. At number 7, we have The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever. Again, Nick wrote the lyrics to this song. And in another Ask Catty post on the Duran Duran website, it was explained that the concept was taken from a personal experience of Nick's and also somebody else he knew who was struggling with a relationship at that time. Now, the style of music is sort of between a ballad and an up-tempo track. That's what I read. Now, I do think that The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever would be like a really great sort of like finale song. I always kind of picture it as being like a song that you would play on your sort of like last ever show. And I don't believe this song was actually ever played live, which I can sort of understand because it isn't really a song that you would expect would be played live. I do think, you know, it doesn't have that energy to be a live song. I don't know if that makes sense, but some songs I feel like, you know, they are definitely songs that should be played live, and then some are kind of like, you know, they'd be okay if they were played live occasionally, but they're not a song that you would really put in a regular set list. And this song comes just before the prelude, which is Kiss Goodbye. So I do think The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever, Kiss Goodbye, and then ending on Last Day on Earth, I think that is actually a really nice lineup for the tracks on the album, because I do think that The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever would be, you know, it's more a song that you would put towards the end, and I do think it would have been a good closer. But I do also understand why Last Day on Earth is, because I always think you want to end an album on a bit of a high, you know, you do want to end on something that's gonna, you know, make you feel more energized and happy. You don't really want to listen to something that's gonna put you down at the end of an album. At least that's how I feel. There's not really much else I could find about The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever. So at number 7 we have The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever. At number 6 we have Pop Trash Movie. Now this song was written and produced by Nick and Warren, and they originally wrote and produced it for Blondie. However, her label collapsed at the time, and the song, plus another song that they wrote for her, which was titled Studio 54, I believe, they became tangled in legal issues, and Blondie ended up getting another record label, and, you know, the songs were kind of discarded from Blondie. I mean, that wasn't meant to sound rude to Blondie. I believe it sort of, you know, became like she couldn't use the songs anymore because of the legal issues, because they were meant to be with another label. I'm not entirely sure, but you understand what I'm saying, hopefully. And so, because Blondie could no longer use those songs, Simon petitioned for Pop Trash Movie to become a Duran Duran song. He told Nick and Warren he liked the song, and they obviously agreed with the idea. And so Pop Trash Movie became a Duran Duran song, and that is also what led to the album's title. Now, I couldn't find a lot about Pop Trash Movie other than the fact that it was originally written for Blondie. The song is obviously about, I'm not actually sure, it's, you know, it's about living in a pop trash movie and everything being scripted and living in a movie. Okay, I'm now just making things up. I do remember when I was reading about the album last night, Nick stated that he quoted, I think, Andy Warhol in the song. I believe he said something about, you know, everyone will have their 15 minutes of fame, and in the song, one of the lyrics is, we'll all be famous for 15 minutes. I don't think I've got the quote entirely right, but if I can find it, I'll put it on screen. At number 6, we have Pop Trash Movie. At number 5, we have Mars Meets Venus. Now this song was literally made of ads from the back of a magazine. That's how Nick explained where the song came from, is that it just came from ads in the back of a magazine. And I definitely can understand that, because it is, you know, it's kind of just a load of words sort of strung together in a sense. And I'm gonna be honest, I do actually like Mars Meets Venus. It was actually one of my first favourite songs from Pop Trash, and obviously, you know, my opinion's changed a little bit since then, because it's been quite a while. The song is basically a humorous yet cynical outlook on modern dating. I think the funny thing is even now it still sounds really like it can apply to even now, which, you know, this was obviously written in the year 2000, but things are only seeming to get worse in the world, so it almost, to me, it kind of sounds like a sort of like a dating application. When I was actually listening to it last night, I remember thinking to myself, this sounds like something that you'd put on a online dating profile. Like, just the way the words roll together and everything. It also has a rather electric Barbarella feel to the song. They both are kind of like humorous songs about modern dating, so, you know, in a way, I guess Mars Meets Venus is kind of like a little follow-up to Electric Barbarella. It's not like officially, but that's just kind of what I've connected, is when you think about it, it is a bit like a little follow-up to Electric Barbarella. But I couldn't really find much more about the song. I did find it interesting though that it was made just of like words from ads from a magazine. I did like that, because I really do like when you can like look at something and you write a song about it. I do that sometimes. It'll just be like a phrase and it sparks something in your mind and suddenly you have a song. But at number 5 we have Mars Meets Venus. Now at number 4 we have Last Day on Earth, the real album closer. It is an up-tempo hard rock song with a sci-fi feel, and I couldn't really find anything about Last Day on Earth, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, because it is a really great song. It's really, you know, it's upbeat. The words, I suppose you could say, are a little bit dark when you think about it, because, you know, it's like asking what you'd do if it was your last day on Earth, but at the same time it's a really up-tempo, like upbeat song, so it kind of, you know, takes away from that. And to me it's sort of like one of those songs that, you know, is quite dark and deep when you listen to the lyrics, but the music sort of disguises it as something that's not as, you know, deep and meaningful. I couldn't really find much about Last Day on Earth, which I'm a little bit disappointed about, because I did think there would be an interesting fact or two about this song, but I couldn't really find anything. So we will just have to leave it there. And at number 4 we have Last Day on Earth. At number 3 we have Lava Lamp. This was also another song that I couldn't find anything about really. Now I do remember watching a live show from the Pop Trash tour, and I'm pretty sure that Simon said that it was one of his favourites from the album.
This is my favourite song off our new album at the moment. It's Lava Lamp.
Because he thought it was next in the set list, and then it sadly wasn't.
We're not.
Now, I will say that my top 3 songs in this ranking are definitely songs from Pop Trash that I would love to see live. I think Lava Lamp would be a great song to see live. I'm not sure if they did play it live in shows on the Pop Trash tour, but I do know that they played it on a American talk show. I've seen that video, but like I said, I don't know if they played it live at any of their shows. Like I said, I couldn't really find anything about Lava Lamp. There is actually a limited edition Mathmos Lava Lamp, that is, you know, a Duran Duran collab, which, you know, was probably came about because of that song, or, you know, maybe it was just an idea that would have happened without the song. I am one of the lucky people that does own one of those lamps. I actually have a video about it further down on my channel if you're interested, or you can go to my playlist and there's a unboxing playlist and the video is there if you're interested in seeing the actual lava lamp. But for the song, I couldn't find anything about it. When I searched Duran Duran lava lamp and like the song, it didn't really bring much up about the song, and it just wanted to show me their actual lava lamp, which isn't even for sale anymore because it sold out so quickly. So if you're gonna try and look for that song, it's gonna rub it in like, hey, you didn't get one of these and now you can't. At number 3 we have Lava Lamp. At number 2 we have Playing with Uranium. This song was actually inspired by a true story that Simon read in the news about a 15-year-old boy who built a nuclear reactor in his garden shed. And you know, I'm really not surprised. That definitely does seem like something that Simon would be inspired to write a song about, or that would spark some creativity. As I said before, I do like when, you know, songs come about from like little things, and also like, you know, things that you've read and seen and heard about. Now, I'm not entirely sure who wrote the lyrics in the first place. I don't know if Nick wrote them, but Nick stated that Simon tweaked the lyrics to make them more ambiguous, so it wasn't just completely like, you know, about the boy who built a nuclear reactor in his shed. I do think when you listen to Playing with Uranium, it can take on many different meanings. It's definitely one of those songs that you can just give it your own meaning to, which is pretty much, I say it all the time, but that is pretty much Duran Duran songs. They're written for you to sort of make your own meaning and your own story for them. That's all I could really find about Playing with Uranium. I do think it's a really great song. It is a song that I would love to see live. I've watched videos of it live and it just seems so great. It's really got that live energy that I was talking about previously. It's really upbeat, it's really funky, and you know, the lyrics really are ambiguous as well. You can sort of tell that, because you can definitely just, you know, take it as being about a boy who built a nuclear reactor in his shed, or you can actually sit down and think, is this about something else? Yeah, it probably is. But at number 2 we have Playing with Uranium. And finally, at number 1, my favourite song from Pop Trash. And this might seem a little bit cliche, and you know, I'm not normally one that usually likes the most popular song the most, you know, but in this case, I do. So at number 1, my favourite song from Pop Trash is Someone Else, Not Me. Someone Else, Not Me is the only single from Pop Trash and the only song that Simon wrote all of the lyrics to. Now, the video to the song was the first to be created entirely by Macromedia Flash Animation by a web design firm named Fullerene Productions, who also created the band's Flash-based official website. And this song is also the only Duran Duran song to be recorded in 2 other languages, which were Spanish and French. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually listened to the Spanish and French versions of this song yet. I don't know, I think it's really lovely that... Well, I read that Simon wanted the lyrics translated into Spanish and French so that he could obviously, you know, record the song in those languages, and I thought that was really nice, you know. I feel like it probably means a lot to him. I'll get into what it's about in a minute, but, you know, for him to, like, want to record the song in 2 other languages so that there were people in other countries who, you know, may only speak Spanish or French, he wanted to record them so that they'd understand the song, I believe. And I just think, you know, it's a really nice thing to do. And it also kind of, you know, it makes you really wonder, like, the song must have really meant something to him. Like, he really must have wanted people to, like, hear it. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating now, and I don't really like doing that. Are you sure about that? Because you kind of do it a lot. I do kind of speculate a lot without being, like, without realising that I'm doing it. I sort of do it unintentionally, but I don't mean to. It does get you thinking, like, what the reason for it was. I'm gonna see, actually, if there's anything about it in here, because, okay, so there's not really much about why it was actually, like, recorded in 2 other languages. Apart from the fact that, you know, it was just for, you know, the markets, the Spanish and the French markets. I don't know, you know, the fact that it is the only song that has ever been re-recorded in 2 other languages. I'm sure I have read something about, you know, why he wanted to re-record it in 2 other languages, but I can't remember the reasoning. It was quite a while ago that I read about it, but there was a reason. Now, onto the meaning of the song. Simon has said that the song is based on a very personal experience, and it is about knowing that you have to let go of a relationship or somebody, even though it is really hard to do so, or you just don't want to. And you can really hear that in the song. Like, it really speaks for itself. He has also said before in interviews about the song that it was from sharing a personal moment with somebody, and I think he said something like, you know, realising that it can't last forever and it's not meant to be, you know. I'm pretty sure it was about like an experience he shared with somebody, and we obviously don't know who that somebody is, and we don't have to, because it's not our business. But I do think it is truly one of the most beautiful Duran Duran songs. I think Someone Else Not Me should have got as much attention as Ordinary World did. I do think that Someone Else Not Me is kind of on that level of Ordinary World, and, you know, for different reasons. Hopefully you kind of understand what I'm trying to say about how, you know, the song deserved to sort of have that level of recognition, because it is a really personal song, and it's, you know, it's a real, like, heart, you know, it really comes from the heart, and you can hear that it is a very beautiful song, and it's a special song, really, I would believe. And, you know, especially considering that Simon was having, like, difficulties with writing songs at that time. You know, he had really bad writer's block, and Nick and Warren were writing pretty much all of the lyrics for Pop Trash. The fact that Simon, you know, wrote this entire song, it's just, you know, it is really special song. I think one thing you can tell in the difference between, like, the emotional songs that Nick wrote on the album, such as The Sun Doesn't Shine Forever, Ladies Annex, and Starting to Remember, I think the difference you can tell between, like, those 3 songs and also, like, the way that Simon writes emotional songs is I feel like this might come across quite rude, and I'm not, like, being rude saying this, because everyone has different writing styles, and everyone's lyrics, you know, they come from different places and different, you know, ideas and things like that. But I do think that, you know, Simon's emotions tend to come from the heart, whereas I feel like Nick's sort of come from the mind, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, and I don't know how to completely put it into words, but just that I feel like Simon is a lot more emotional than Nick is, and you know, for that reason I do feel like a lot of, like, the emotional songs that Simon writes, you know, they come from really deep within, like, really from the heart, whereas, like, Nick, I feel like his emotional songs are more from the actual mind itself, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people's emotions are really from, like, they're really heartfelt people, and then, you know, other people are not emotional in that deep way, which is fine. I wouldn't really say I am, to be honest. I don't want this to sound like I'm saying, like, oh, Nick's heartless, he just, he can't have feelings. That's not what I'm saying, you know. I'm just saying that, you know, the emotional lyrics do come from sort of different places, which is completely fine because, as I've said before, everyone has, you know, different writing styles, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the emotional tracks that Nick wrote on this album. They're just, you know, they're emotionally different to Simon's emotional songs, which makes sense because, like, everybody, you know, handles and processes emotions differently as well. I just think more so that it is intriguing, you know, to sort of see hear the difference in the songs. I do think Someone Else Not Me is a really beautiful song. It really came from within. I think you can even hear that in the way that it is sung. You know, you can really kind of tell that it is coming from like a personal place. I feel like in a way it is quite raw, you know. I'm not ever gonna like talk about what I think the song's about. I don't think that's right to do. It's, you know, not explained for a reason, and like I said, if I'm right, then, well, that would kind of feel quite wrong, you know, because then I just feel like I've accidentally spilled a secret when I didn't even know it was the truth. I would love to see Someone Else Not Me live as well. It's a really lovely song. I think the problem is people only want to hear the hits. A lot of the Duran Duran fans that go to the show were literally like fans when they were like 12 and have not heard any of the music since like 85, except when Ordinary World used to come on the radio in 93. And so, you know, they kind of just go for the hits, and because so many people go for the hits to be played, you know, it kind of like takes away from the deeper tracks that deserve to be played, you know, because they're just getting dusty sat in the back of the catalogue. Like, give them some airtime, guys. But anyway, at number 1, my favourite song from Pop Trash is Someone Else Not Me. But anyway, that concludes my ranking of Pop Trash. Of course, next week is going to be Astronaut. We've still got 6 weeks to go, so if you want to stick around, that would be appreciated. And until the next one, bye.